So Faustina Asafo there taking us way back memory lane and how the children don't even know. Yeah, they've heard about it, but they don't even care about the games that we used to play. What game were you playing before? What memories is this story bringing back to you? You can share with us here on the show. I played Alikoto. Yeah, that was way back in Dansuman. But let me know what you think. Let's do the newspapers now. It's Monday, the 23rd of October, 2017, in the year of our Lord. Let's start over the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page of the Graphic, here's a story that police officers will be excited about, at least. Police get big welfare package. That story on page 3. And then also Ameri was best for Ghana. Dr. Kwabena Donko, immediate past Minister of Power, defending the Ameri deal. Reprieve for sanctioned FM stations. Also another story on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. But let's start off on page 3, this police story. Now, under this package that is big, the welfare package, every police officer will have an insurance cover to the value 50,000 Ghana cedis in the event of death while he or she is in the line of duty. And the story about the package was revealed last Friday by the IGP, the Inspector General of Police, David Asante Apietu. And so if accidentally or by natural death, if a police officer dies through natural causes while in active service, his or her family will be entitled to 25,000 Ghana cedis. And then while an officer who would suffer a permanent disability in the discharge of his duty would also be entitled to 25,000 Ghana cedis. A lot more in the Daily Graphic newspaper. But let's quickly fast forward. Let's go to page 16 on these radio stations who have been sanctioned. Let's see the kind of deal that's been arrived now on page 16 in the Daily Graphic newspaper. It says commercial FM broadcasting stations which were sanctioned by the National Communications Authority for various infractions have had their penalties halved by the Ministry of Communications. So the defaulting stations have been given a 30-day ultimatum beginning October 2017 to pay the 50% reduced penalties or have their authorizations revoked. And a statement issued by the Minister of Communications, Mrs. Eslo Uswe-Kofu, last Friday said the pecuniary penalties which were imposed on community and institutioned FM broadcasting stations had been waived. Okay, so that's good news for community stations because it's been totally waived, but for commercial stations, we know that it's been halved now. There's a regional breakdown and fines as well if you go ahead to read the story. Maybe just let me touch on just a few. Some of the affected stations in the Greater Accra region are Radio XYZ or Z, if you like, Atinker FM, Radio Gold, and Atlantis Radio. So Radio XYZ has been slapped with a fine of 4,090,000 Ghana cedis, while Atinker FM has been ordered to pay a fine of 14,800,000 cedis. Radio Gold and Atlantis Radio have been ordered to pay 61,330,000 Ghana cedis and 60,350,000 respectively. It's still a lot of money, if you like. There are more names. Cape Coast FM and Katinka FM in the Central Region are among the stations that were fined. There's also Akwitia FM in the Eastern Region. There are lots of names of the radio stations, and then there's also something on Defiance stations also in the paper. But just down where this story of the FM stations, you find the Ameri deal and Dr. Kwabena Donko defending the deal. The immediate past Minister of Power, Dr. Kwabena Donko, and the Africa and Middle East Resources Investment Group, Ameri, have defended the $510 million $10 million power agreements with the government, saying it was the best deal for Ghana, considering the country's energy crisis at the time. Speaking before the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament in Accra last Friday, Dr. Donko said due diligence was done before signing the agreements and denied the suggestion that the deal was fraudulent. But we know that the minority says that they're not going to be cooperating any longer. There will be more when we do AM Talk later this morning. Let's turn to the back page of the Daily Graphic now. Liberty beat Kotoko to survive. It will be interesting. Benedict will be here. If you missed that game, Liberty, Kumasi, Asante Kotoko. Also, Inter Allies hold hats. All the details in sports coming up right after the newspapers with Benedict Owusu-Dankwa. Let's quickly turn our attention to the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Front page of the Times, sanctioned radio stations pardoned. But this is a bit misleading, isn't it? Because not all of them have been pardoned. Some of them, it's been halved, so you still have to pay some kind of fine. TVET bill for Parliament soon, according to the President. Amend law to pave way for election of MMDCEs. That's a call coming from IDEG. 50,000 Ghana cedis insurance cover for police. We shared details of that with you in the Daily Graphic. Farmer remanded for defiling KG pupil. And a farmer accused of defiling a 4-year-old kindergarten pupil has been ordered by the Jasa Circuit Court to be held in prison. The details of that story you find page 3 in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Also, this story that some people found a bit unbelievable, but was it true? Was it not true? Was it reconsidered? As the World Health Organization has revoked the appointment of Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe as a goodwill ambassador following a widespread outcry. What's wrong if he's made goodwill ambassador? Details of that in the paper as well. Okay, so what do we take first? Let's talk about, let's go to page 17. Let's do this, amend the law to pave way for the election of MMDCEs. That story here, okay, it says, a senior research fellow at the Institute for Democratic Governance, Mr. Kwesi Jonah, has urged government to quickly amend parts of the constitution that hinders the implementation of the election of metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives. The president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in July this year, took a decision to allow districts and communities to participate in the decision-making process at the local level by electing their own chief executives. But the president, legislative instrument on local government, and joins the president to appoint MMDCEs in his own capacity. Mr. Jonah was speaking at a one-day seminar on developmental political parties. Well, we know that before that can happen, there are things that we need to put in place. We're not sure if we'll be able to. But you can continue to read what Mr. Kwesi Jonah said to the Ghanaian Times, that story here. And the government is developing a bill that outlines technical and vocational education and training strategy for the country. The bill, which is yet to be submitted to Cabinet for approval, would, among other things, ensure that technical tertiary institutions are managed by persons with technical university backgrounds. The rest of the story is in the graphic in the center spread of the paper, really, page 16 and 17. Let's see what's on the back page of the Times. It's sports, obviously. Olympics fall at Bechem. Inter Allies hold hats. Bukom Banku stopped. Bukom Banku stopped. Oh my God! And those who've been trolling Bukom Banku. He talks too much, Anna. Okay, that's why. But Benedict will be here. If you missed the bouts as well, right after the newspapers, make sure you don't miss. But where is Bukom Banku? Because according to the report that was found by Joy Sports, you know, they couldn't find him after the bout to speak to him. So hasn't been found yet. If anybody has seen him, let us know. Let's do the Daily Guide newspaper. The Daily Guide newspaper, front page of the Guide. Beasts beats Bukom Banku. Amazing. Minister grilled over $510 million stinking a merry deal. That's how the Daily Guide puts the headline on the front page of the paper. Also, Nilga Manche and stooled Kentucky Teiko Churu the second. And 50,000 Ghana cedis insurance cover for police officers. That story is also in the Daily Guide newspaper. And then when you look at the story of the minister who was grilled, that's former Prime Minister Kwabena Donko, you find Katie Hammond, the man who's resurrected this whole conversation, hoping that we can overturn this deal, and Ahmed bin Dalmouk bin Juma Al Maktoum Telkom, a married CEO. He's also on the front page of the paper. But let's see where Roland would have gone if he was here in the Daily Guide newspaper, and let's see what we can find. Okay. Oh, where's Roland's page? I'm not sure I see it, but I see Beats Waves, which has some entertainment stories. Yeah, there's no news one in the center spread. There's no news one in the center spread of the paper. So, all right. So that's it for the Daily Guide newspaper. No Roland, no news one. Let's do the Finder newspaper front page of the Finder next. Mobile money fraud alarming, staff of telcos deeply involved, according to the police. Well, some people suspected this. Chief Superintendent Dr. Herbert Gustav Yankson, Director in charge of the Cybercrime Unit of the Ghana Police Service, he's been saying a few things. We'll look at the full details of that story. Ghana's 8-loss victory, a collective effort, according to the president. There's an unforgettable picture on the front page of the Finder newspaper. It's the president and the former Attorney General, Maretta Brio, and then the current Attorney General. Incredible picture on the front page of the Finder newspaper. NCA slashes FM stations fine by 50%. Even the 50% is still very huge. So are we calling for a further slash in the amounts that those who've been sanctioned, the FM stations, are supposed to pay? Ghana partners MIT on innovation and entrepreneurship. Another headline on the front page of the Finder newspaper. It's very loaded. Basti Samuel humiliates Bukom Banku in make or break vows. And it will be interesting on Interactive later on this morning with Benizabu Beidu, because different people are saying different things. People are getting very innovative with this fight as well. Some say he ate Etel and not Banku before the bout. That's why he lost. Others saying he probably didn't eat okra. So different things. If you've got something that you want to share with us on it as well, you're always welcome to do so. But let's talk about this mobile money fraud trend, which is very much worrying. Story on page 2 by Elvis Dako in Accra says, the rate at which subscribers of mobile money are being defrauded by both criminals and some staff of telecom companies has reached alarming proportions. The service, which has been touted as an innovation to bring banking to the doorsteps of the unbanked, is turning out to be a monster, depriving poor people of their little money. All right, so it gives us very much all the breakdowns. I'm interested in what the police have been saying. So where's the police? Telco staff change PIN number of customers in the database. Okay, so here's it. It says these staff of telecom companies who are in league with criminals then resets the number with the money to a new owner. No, I think I've skipped something. The Finder learns that these employees without authorization access the database of mobile money merchants and change the registration details of customers in order to withdraw money from their accounts. Wow. And then the staff of the telecom companies who are in league with criminals then resets the number with the mobile with the money to a new owner in the database, which gives the new owner access to change the PIN and withdraw monies. They then acquire new SIM cards and use the PINs to withdraw monies from merchants. Initially, the fraudsters could send a text or call the subscribers that they have won some lottery, so they should send them money to claim their prize. So it's just essentially telling, and I think I've learned something new from this story as well. There are different ways that people are defrauding mobile money users as well. You might want to take time and read the details and be sure that you're not defrauded. But if it's inside people doing it, then what kind of control do we have? We've had this conversation here on the AM show, but there's a different angle altogether that's coming up in the Finder newspaper. Please make time to read the details. Page 8, finally. Okay, and then we'll move on to some other papers. I think we've got the Daily Dispatch as well before we do the online review. Okay, so President Akufo-Addo has acknowledged the roles played by successive governments in securing Ghana's western maritime boundary. He said the verdict handed down by the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea was a collective effort. Quote, this victory could not have been achieved through the actions of one person, one political party, or one government. It has been a collective effort, and the important roles played by successive presidents and government should not be overlooked, discounted, or understated, unquote. There's more of what he said in the paper as well. First Lady urges business leaders to help rebrand Ghana is also another story in the Finder. Let's do the Daily Dispatch quickly, and then we will do myjoyonline.com. The Daily Dispatch front page: President to reward Idlos legal team with national awards. Oh, okay. Cocaine consumption in 115 countries. Ghana places, guess what, 14th, 1-4 to beat Colombia. How is that possible? How could we beat Colombia in this? Cabinet Japan has not changed. According to Chairman Wunsumi there, you might recall that I think last week it was loud. Some persons asking that he be brought back as General Secretary of the party. But apparently, Chairman Wunsumi doesn't think that he's ready to come back. So you can read the inside story in the Daily Dispatch newspaper. With that said, let's do online. Let's do myjoyonline.com. Let's find out what My Joy Online is reporting this day. We'll do City FM, and then we'll do a bit of the BBC. I'm interested in the Mugabe story and the World Health Organization. Amazing twists and turns. On myjoyonline.com, Volta Region GJA launches Maiden Awards. Okay, Vodafone GRA lock horns over alleged 6-year-old tax default. Also another story on the page this morning you find on myjoyonline.com. Stop sabotaging COAFs. WHO scientist tells AIDS Commission. All right, that's the fight against polio in Africa. All right, that's a newly appointed WHO representative for the fight against polio in Africa told the Ghana AIDS Commission to stop sabotaging the COAFs. I guess you've got to open that and then read the detail of that story on the page. UCC compiles electronic map of Ghana's conflict hotspots. The University of Cape Coast has with support from the UNDP and the National Peace Council. They've developed an online electronic conflict mapping book. Very interesting. Planning officers across Ghana undergo value for money training. Fire outbreaks in Ashanti region reduced significantly. Thank God. Fire accident has dropped by 40% in the Ashanti region between January and September of this year compared to 2016. So the Ashanti region is definitely doing something right. We might want to take a look at what they're doing right and see if we can replicate that across the country. Police officers to receive 50,000 Ghana cedis insurance cover. Ghana Securities Industry Association holds annual fitness walk. Another story on the page. But one of the major talking points in Ghana today, or maybe in Accra, is the Dangbe, the new Gamanche who's been installed. And this one says Gadangbe youth urge calm as illegal, quote, installation of new Gamanche spark tensions. Already we know there are a few of the cases in court. And, you can tend to lose count of what's even happening as well. So we'll see how this one goes. In the meantime, I guess congratulations is in order. The new Gamanche who was installed. The ceremony started late Friday, we were told, and then on Sunday it continued. Akufo-Addo tweets inviting Basti to eat Banku at Flagstaff House. Fake. I guess somebody was trying to be smart, especially with the president's, congratulating or wishing Shatawale a happy birthday. Somebody thought that they could put a fast one on us, and they did get us. But thank God that quickly it was debunked. Okay, so there are a lot more stories on myjoyonline.com that you can always visit. And of course, if you miss, for instance, News File or any of the productions here on Joy News, you can always log on to my Joy Online and you can always catch up with videos of our content as well. Let's see what City FM is reporting this day, shall we? All right. NCA must be sued for backdating fines, according to Kisley Hayford. Mahama congratulates Basti, empathizes with friend Buko Banco. Digital address system amateurish, not new, according to Franklin Kujo. He says we've copied, but why copy the same thing? Why don't you add something to what you've copied at least? Presidency denies fake Basti. Samuel tweets that story also on cityfmonline.com. All right. Let's see what the BBC is reporting before we make way for Benedict. We'll sit down, Kwa. So a lot of things to look out for when Benedict comes up. There's the bouts. There's also Kumasi Asante Kotoko losing. Hopefully he doesn't come and put Manchester United in our faces. WHO cancels Mugabe ambassador role. We're on the BBC page. The appointment of Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe prompted a global outcry and wide-ranging condemnation. What's wrong? Doesn't he deserve an ambassadorial role? And on what basis did the WHO put this crown on him? And why would they quickly pull it back? Africa's medical tourist code precedents. Okay, so the Robert Mugabe story there in details. You might want to read the details of that story. Mogadishu bomb toll jumps to 358. We're told is the deadliest so far. Malawi goes after vampire lynch mobs. This is a weird story also in Malawi. Police killed in Niger base attack. Soldiers pursue the attackers and are reported to have clashed with them near the border with Mali. Militants slaughter Egypt security forces. The forces are reported to have been looking for the militants' hideouts when they came under attack. Millions caught in SA's worst data breach is also another story. Two stories I want us to click on just before Benedict comes. Fred, can we do the millions caught in the SA's worst data breach story? And then the Malawi story as well, quickly for us just before we go. But you can always get interactive with us here on the show as well. We want to learn more about this South African story, and then we'll do the Malawi story. Are there vampires in Malawi, really? Because, you know, people are apparently of the view that yes. Okay, so let's go up. Let's go up quickly. All right. Authorities in South Africa are investigating a data breach which has seen the personnel or the personal details of more than 30 million citizens leaked on the internet, placing them at risk of identity theft. The information contained in a 27-gigabyte file was discovered by Australia-based internet security expert. And this earlier this week will be last week. It contains their names, full identity numbers, income, gender, employment history, contact numbers, and even home addresses. That's scary. South Africa's population is about 54 million, so more than half of the country is affected by what has been described as the country's worst leak of private data. Very interesting. Finally, we'll do the Malawi story just before we wrap up and make way for Benedict, who's got a lot of, sports coming up. And that data breach brings to the concern of this whole online registration of home addresses as well. People think, okay, is my data safe? But this story about vampires, police in the Southeast African state of Malawi say they have arrested 140 members of lynch mobs who attacked people suspected of being vampires. At least 8 people are believed to have been killed, including 2 men, on Thursday in the second city of that country. One was set on fire and the other stoned, according to police, all because they were suspected of being vampires. 2 others were arrested for threatening to suck people's blood, but police say they have no medical report of any actual blood sucking. Vigilante killing started on September 16 when 3 people suspected of being blood suckers were killed by a mob. I thought vampires, it's only in horror movies. I didn't think it could be real and people could be living it. But this is just a myth. People are acting on this myth and killing people to the extent of setting them on fire. Amazing. Well, if you're interested in any of the stories that I've reviewed here on the show, you can either go online and go and check the stories out in detail, or, and I'll entreat you, go to the newsstands and go and buy the newspapers as well and read them in detail. My job with the review is done. Up next is Benedict. He's got sport, after which I'll settle down with my AM talk guests. We'll talk about all the big issues here in our country. Stay with us. You're watching the AM show. We've got a conversation also on stammering as the day was observed yesterday. If you've got a child who's beginning to talk, I think sometimes around 3, 4, 5, sometimes they talk and it's as if they're stammering. Should you be worried? You know, and the kind of tax that people put on people who stammer. We'll learn a lot more here on the show. And don't forget, we're talking breast cancer. Today we speak to a survivor. We'll also talk to a nurse who's been taking care of survivors. So our breast cancer conversation is also on. It's a Monday. Please do stay with us. Don't go anywhere.